Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. I want to take a moment to also thank the witnesses for joining us today and for your testimony and participation. I think it's important for you to be here so we can highlight the successes of the First Step Act, which has made not just the public safer, but our criminal justice system more fair. And I appreciate Chairman Dribbin scheduling this hearing for today. So as we celebrate the achievements and the successes, it is also critical that we look forward to opportunities for continuing to improve the system, as Mr. Smith referenced just a minute ago, and surely we do have plenty of work that remains to be done. Now, prior to the STEP Act, only the Bureau of Prisons had the statutory authority to petition the court to resentence an offender. However, this authority was rarely used. From 2013 to 2017, the Bureau received 5,400 requests, roughly, for compassionate release and approved 6%. Under the First Step Act, incarcerated individuals may take it upon themselves in limited circumstances to petition for their own early release. My question is for Mr. Charles Smith. Can you describe the impact this policy change has had on incarcerated individuals, them knowing that they now have this option and opportunity?
Once again, we need to give incentive for people to change, to be rehabilitated. As Mr. Charles noted to my right, he was given a lot of those opportunities and took advantage of all those opportunities. So I keep saying we need to be strategic, but we do. We have to take a look at what policies promote someone to be rehabilitated and to not reoffend. And we need to get better at that. Under the old system, it was just, hey, I did my time. I'm coming up before the parole board. I didn't do anything wrong, so let me out. And once again, I think the FSA went a long way towards incentivizing a lack of reoffending. And so once again, I just want to applaud all the senators that had a hand in enacting this and passing it. And I think that, again, we can fine-tune it. I heard, the good senator talk about some provisions in it that perhaps he believes are being abused. But once again, every piece of legislation is not perfect. Sometimes we just have to fine-tune it after we've did the first step, and maybe the second step will fine-tune it, make it better.
Exactly. And so in that spirit, when it comes to compassionate release, do you believe it's being adequately and equitably used today, or any suggestions on how to improve upon it and make it better?
I do have a couple. We do see abuse of the compassionate release program. It's not rampant, but there are people that are trying to take advantage of it, and that's just going to happen with any population, inside of a prison or outside for that matter. But I do believe that there are circumstances that we as prosecutors have consented to the compassionate release, especially with the elderly, especially with the ill. But I guess I would want to see the data points. What is it that's being looked at in terms of compassionate release? To assure that those people truly that should be getting it are getting it.
Thank you. My next question is going to be for Mr. Charles, but let me preface it with the following. When we discuss these rehabilitation programs and government efforts to create more just sentencing laws, we often talk about individuals who will directly benefit from these programs, these reforms, these improvements, if you will. But there are also substantial benefits when communities see the criminal justice system committed to prioritizing safety and carrying out fair and equal justice. Mr. Charles, how do you believe fair sentencing practices impact communities, not just the individual?
Thank you, sir. I definitely do. The fact that I'm just going to go back to the war against drugs, when they were receiving 100-to-1 sentences for crack cocaine versus powder cocaine. A lot of communities of color. I don't just want to say that that disparity is not justified, but it's also racially disparate. And a lot of communities of color that have been ravaged due to drug activity that have taken place in those communities, and their loved ones have been sentenced to sentences anywhere from 30 years to life, when people who sold the same drug but not, in other words, the type of drug, ended up receiving a less sentence than their loved ones. So a lot of times people see that and they be like, well, the justice system isn't fair. When I was sentenced, I didn't necessarily believe that the justice system was fair. I understood that I should be held accountable for breaking the law, and I was. And I received a 35-year sentence based on what the law was at that time. But as I review my sentence and reflect on the fact that someone that just sold powder cocaine would have received a sentence 15 years less than what I received, then that's not fair. And communities of color have seen this, and they have seen heavy police force. Now, we believe in policing and preventing crime, but communities of color oftentimes are heavily policed. And whenever the law that they're being sentenced to is not necessarily favorable to people in these conditions or people of color, then that sets a stage for them to believe that the law isn't fair. So I would say anytime that we can reform laws that are not fair to make them more fair, or repeal those laws, then it's always going to be better for the community. And community is going to be satisfied as far as their loved ones return home and feel within themselves that the justice system is trying to be fairer.
Yeah, that does impact the fundamental public confidence in the justice system, which is important. Welcome, Senator Klobuchar. You're up next.
Thank you very much, Senator Padilla.